James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting October the 21st, 2019. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this week's video reading. This week I wanted to continue working with Lenormand. I've spent a lot of time over the course of the week working with the system, so I thought, why not give it another go this week? I also realized we are inching closer to Halloween, and with that in mind, I wanted to once again work with the newest Lenormand deck in my collection, and that is the Nosferatu Lenormand. It is by Crone's Bones, and I will be leaving information about the deck in the description box below. I also am going to be revisiting one of my older spreads that I've been working with in this space, and that is the pyramid spread. So I'm very excited to be working with that. A lot of you, when I was working with it previously, really liked it. So I'm hoping for those of you who may be new, you get a taste of what that's like. And hopefully, if you are a card reader, you may want to give it a try. And if you do decide to give it a try, circle back around and let me know how it goes for you. But that is the layout we're going to be using this week. So now that I've talked about the deck and I talked about the layout, let's get to the table to see what the Nosferatu Lenormand has to say through the lens of the pyramid spread about the week ahead. And here we are with the cards on the table, and I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the deck. And as I shuffle the cards, I'm focusing on my usual intention for these weekly general readings, and that is for the information, for the insight, for the guidance and advice that is going to be most helpful and beneficial. As we move through the upcoming week. Feeling one more time will be good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. Fan the cards out. And now I'm looking for 6 cards in the fan that are getting my attention, because that's how many cards are in the pyramid spread. Alright, so those are the cards. I'm going to pick the remainder of the deck up. And we'll be moving that to one side. Alright, now I'm going to do my check. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, all the cards are there. So now we're going to lay the cards out. And if this is your first time seeing me work with the pyramid spread, the way it gets laid out is that the card on the top, card 1, goes at the very top in the center, somewhat like that. This represents the central issue for the week. Then cards 2 and 3 go on each side of card 1, one tier below it. These represent conditions or influences that play a role or a part in the central issue. And then the final 3 cards, which go below the first 3 cards, they represent ways that the situation or the central issue can play itself out. So now I'm just taking a moment to straighten the cards. Okay. So now let's take a look at the card that represents the central issue for the week. And here we have Stork. Okay. So now this card showed up, I believe, the last time I worked with this particular deck. So Stork represents change and improvement. Those are my keywords for it. So here we have an issue regarding change and improvement. So for me, it would make me think, since it's appearing in a similar spot as it did a couple of weeks ago, then for those who may have saw that particular reading, watched that particular video, then this may be a follow-up to that, right? So we could ask ourselves, what changes and what improvements have been made since the last time this card showed up as the central issue? I believe in that reading, it was the overall theme, right? So kind of a similar thing, right? So what changes have we made since the last time this card appeared, and what has been improved as a result, right? So again, remember, Stork is about change and improvement. If you didn't see that previous video, then the question for you this week is, what needs to be changed in your life, or what could you put some energy into changing? What could you put some energy into improving, right? Another possibility with this card is about migration. So there may be some energy or some focus or some attention being put on relocating, right? So there's that. So somebody may be in the process of moving from one location to another, right? Or there may be a metaphorical sense of maybe needing to move on from a situation, right? And that may be the change you need to make, right? The change could be a change in geographic location, or this idea about creating change, and the change may be just needing to move on, right? And then the last thing I will say is that when I'm using a more traditional Lenormand deck, this card has the playing card insert of the Queen of Hearts. So there may be a woman who may be playing a central role or part in whatever unfolds in the week for some of us. And I always describe the Queen of Hearts as a very maternal figure. For me, when I'm reading playing cards, she usually can represent a maternal figure, a person who's like a mother. So this could represent issues around mom, or someone who's like mom, right? As an approach, because that's another way that I read playing cards, especially face cards, is that we could be adopting approach this week where, we need to be caring, loving, nurturing. Those are all aspects of the Queen. Could be a matter of being receptive, open and receptive. Queens for me represent receptivity. And as I'm saying that, so it could be for some of us, we may need to be open and receptive to change, right? Open and receptive to something improving, right? If I combine the Queen of Hearts with the Stork, right? So again, as an approach, how can we be more caring, more nurturing, maybe more loving, and also maybe empathetic? I tend to look at the Queen of Hearts as having a great deal of understanding and empathy, right? So those are all the things that I would say about the Stork card. So now if that is the central issue, let's take a look at the cards below it to see what conditions or experiences or factors weigh in on that. So with the card on the left, we have Clover. So Clover here would suggest that maybe the change or the improvement for some of us is going to be fortuitous, because one of the things for me with Clover is that it can represent good luck or fortune, right? It could also be an opportunity. So this could be an opportunity for change, an opportunity for improvement, right? If I pair the cards, right? And I'll do it by laying it down. So this, when I'm working with the pyramid, what I tend to do is the cards on this side, I tend to read up towards the center card. So here we have an opportunity for change, an opportunity for improvement, a chance to change something or a chance to improve something, right? Now, if we go with the idea that the Stork card is about migration and moving on, here we have the chance or the opportunity to move on. Right, so there's something about that. So now if I pick the Clover card back up and we go with the idea that this is talking about an opportunity, for me, one of the meanings I have for Clover, Clover can represent something that's brief, right? Because it usually represents something small or a little bit of something. With that in mind, it could suggest that if there is an opportunity being presented or a chance being presented to us this week, there may be a brief window of time that's attached to it, right? So there may be something that we may have to either kind of weigh the pros and the cons, that kind of thing. When I talk about, chances and opportunities with this card, it also can represent a gamble. So it could just be weighing the pros and the cons, seeing what, if there is a gamble involved in that, what are the chances, You know, playing on the gambling aspect, what are the odds? Are the odds in your favor if you consider the opportunity or taking the chance? That kind of thing. So there may be something about having to weigh the pros and the cons in that regard. Right, so I'm seeing that. And then here we have maybe a chance or an opportunity for a woman. If we go back to the idea that the stork card is the Queen of Hearts, or there's an idea of taking a chance on a woman, right? Maybe the woman is playing a part in the opportunity, or she's presenting the opportunity, and we have to decide if we want to take a chance on that and take a chance on her as a result. Right, so clover for me again represents good luck, fortune, an opportunity, taking a chance, those kinds of things. So that's clover. So now let's take a look at the card on the opposite side of stork. And here we have, so if we didn't have it with the Queen of Hearts, if I didn't mention that, here we have the woman card. So the woman card in Lenormand always represents a woman. So this could be a woman who's significant to the situation, right? So if you're a woman watching this video, the woman card would represent you. If you're a man, then it would be a woman who is significant to the situation, right? And so this card has no other meaning other than it's a woman. So we look to the cards that are on the table next to her to kind of maybe either describe her or to let us know what may be happening around her or to her, right? So the first thing that I notice is that the woman is facing clover. So for me, this represents line of sight. This is what she's looking forward to, or that what she's going to be receiving. So the woman here could be receiving an opportunity, right? The woman could be taking a chance in the near future, right? And with the change card in between, it may center on some kind of change, right? Now, if we read it from left to right, then here we have an opportunity with a woman. Right, so it can either be a woman is facing an opportunity, or a woman is looking forward to taking a chance, or a woman is going to receive some good luck, or that there's going to be an opportunity maybe for good luck and a woman is involved in that. Right, and then if we go back to stork for a moment, going with the idea that this is the Queen of Hearts, here we have a situation that may involve two women. Right, so here we have a woman and Queen of Hearts being like mom. It could be a woman and her mother. Right, or another possibility here that there's an opportunity a woman's going to be facing, and it may involve moving, relocating. That the woman would be needing to be making some kind of change. So that's how I would look at the top three cards. So now let's take a look at the cards at the bottom. So here we have on the far left, we have book. One of my favorite cards in the Lenormand deck. So for me, this card would represent a need to read up on something. Now remember, these cards could talk about how a situation is going to play out, right? So here we have at the end, there may be some knowledge being gained, because the book card for me can represent education. It could represent learning something. It's about knowledge. So as an outcome card, it would be that whatever the first three cards are talking about in terms of resonance to each and every one of us, the end result here is that there's going to be some kind of knowledge being gained, right? Now, for me, this card can also represent, a secret or some kind of mystery. So in one regard, we could look at this as knowledge being gained. In another sense, it could be saying too, like, we may not know yet because of the secrecy or the mysterious aspect of book, right? Or it could just be a matter of knowledge being gained, but is it a matter of it being open to the public, right? Like, is it up for public consumption, right? Now, I will say in a metaphoric sense, if we're talking about the idea with Stork about change and improvement, and this idea about migration or moving on, then this card would suggest like maybe closing the book on a chapter in one's life, right? And then finally, for me, as a card reader, I tend to look at this card as a reading or being a reader or a deck of cards, or since we're using Lenormand, this would be representing the Lenormand in particular, right? So there may be something about the reading in and of itself. And so if I put the card down, now remember I said one of the things that I usually do with the pyramid spread is that I read it from the bottom up, going this way. So here we have, knowledge, book, of an opportunity, clover, that leads to or results in change and improvement. Right? So that's one way I would look at that. So again, it would be knowledge of an opportunity that leads to change and improvement. And then bringing the woman back in, it may involve a woman, right? Okay, so now let's move on to the next card in the middle. And here we have Haus. Okay, so the Haus card for me usually represents issues and matters close to home. For me, this can represent one's home life, one's personal life, one's family, right? So how interesting is it that I mentioned with the store card, the Queen of Hearts, right? And what did I say about her? Like, she is like mom. Well, the interesting thing about this card, as I'm talking about that, I realize that this card is the King of Hearts. So if we put the card down, here we clearly have a family-related issue, right? So here, because we have the Queen of Hearts and we have the King of Hearts, so here we have mom and dad. Because the King of Hearts, for me, can represent a husband and father, right? And this would be a wife and mother. So here we have something going on with a couple, right? So again, if I bring the woman card back into this, and if this is about a woman, then this, again, could be her family, or it could be a couple that she knows that are family, right? Because hearts usually represent home and family, domestic issues, right? Just like the Haus card, right? So there is that. Now, if we pair the cards, because what I typically do is I take the central issue card and this card and pair them. So if we read the cards down, here we have a change in home. So here was this idea about a move again, right? So there may be something having to do with a move. It may involve a couple in particular. But here we have change of house, right? Or home improvement, right? If we go with the idea this is improvement, improvement of what? Home, real estate, property. It could also be a change in the family. So it would be some kind of change in the family status in some way. Or that maybe there's going to be some kind of improvement with a domestic situation, right? If we have the King and the Queen of Hearts, then it could be maybe something having to do with that couple and the status of their relationship, right? And if this is a case about a change in home, right? Change in real estate, change in property, then here we have with book and house, knowledge of a home, right? So the scenario that's being presented here is maybe the idea like someone is looking to relocate and they're looking at homes or property, and then maybe something may come up, by chance, or something that's fortuitous, or an opportunity. And it may be with real estate. If it's a real estate opportunity, real estate. If it's a real estate opportunity, there may be a small window of time attached to, maybe like making a deal on that. maybe putting in a bid or an offer or something of that nature, right? But I'm clearly seeing this as knowledge of a home. When I read the book card, and I'll hold it up, with the pages being open on the right-hand side, it usually represents knowledge, right? This part is the knowledge of what's being revealed. And then the card to the right of that shows us what that's about. So here we have knowledge of a home or knowledge of real estate and property, or knowledge of something having to do with family, right? Now, if we go with the idea that this can represent one's home life, one's personal life, then this may be the personal life of a woman, and that there may be some knowledge about that. If she's planning on making some kind of change or improvement, then there'll be knowledge around that. And this could be other people in the family finding out what those changes or improvements that she wants to embark on are. But the first thing that's coming to me is that there may be a change in home, change in residence, or that we're embarking on making some home improvements. Now, if you're a reader like me, what I see here is readings that are done at home. So this could be like somebody who's a reader and they work from home. Or they have a home-based business and they're making some changes to it. If it's not about reading in particular, right? I'm saying that because that would fit for me. The other thing that I'm seeing here, if we go with the idea that this is education, and then this is home, this could be a home study course. Or if this is about improvements in the house, these two cards, and this is about a project. Book for me can represent a project. But if somebody's doing a home-based business, then it could just be knowledge about that, especially if you're in the process of starting that up, let's say. Then it could be making home changes in the house to suit that. And this could be a chance for a home-based business. Or if this is about study, then it may be studying at home versus going to a school. So that may be an online study course or home study course. But it could also be knowledge of a personal nature. Like the gain here is going to be knowledge of a personal nature, right? So whatever the change or the improvement is, on some level, the knowledge that's gained could be of a personal nature, right? So that's what I look at with book and house. So now let's look at the final card, rounding things out. Oh, and here we have a challenging card at the end. So here we have mountain, right? So the first thing that comes to me, because this card can represent a challenge, a block, or an obstacle, but it can also represent, a delay or a setback or something being postponed. The first thing that comes to me with this card is that if there is some kind of home improvement, there may be a setback or a delay with that. And so this would make me feel like there may be some timing attached to that. And so it makes me think of the instances where, maybe people who are doing home renovations or home improvements, they have, a certain amount of time allotted for it or a certain amount of money or something of that nature. And then something happens along the way and there's some sort of setback or delay. But I always say with mountain, because since it's a challenging card and, with the words that represent mountain, I always say that the mountain is not insurmountable. You can overcome the challenge, you can overcome the block, you can overcome the obstacle. It just may be, if I can get the words out, a matter of time, right? So if I read the cards down, because I already read the cards up, remember this was knowledge of an opportunity that leads to change and improvement. Going down, here we have change and improvement for the woman leads to some kind of block, challenge, or the change for the woman leads to a setback or some kind of delay. Right, because here we have, if we take the woman out, we mirror the two cards here. We have change being delayed, right? A delayed change, improvement that's delayed. Now another possibility here is that mountain can also represent, a distant or remote location. So if we pair house and mountain, here we have a house in the mountains. If we go with that in mind, then here we have a move for the woman to the mountains. And if we read with direction in mind, this is very positive with the mountain card tipped behind the woman. Even though it's slightly raised, it's still behind her. So this could be a woman who's overcome a challenge in her past and is now looking forward to change and improvement, right? She may have been blocked, but now she's looking at change, right? If we go this way up, going with direction of the significator in mind, right? And if we read the line across here, we have knowledge of a house in the mountains. That's one possibility. Or here we have knowledge of a family facing a challenge, right? Or knowledge of a family dealing with a setback, right? Or if somebody is studying at home, remember these two cards would be home study. Then there may be some sort of challenge, block, or obstacle to that in that regard. So here's one of the things that could happen with mountain. One of my meanings for mountain is procrastination, right? So if somebody is studying at home, one of the challenges that may have to be worked through is the idea about being distracted at home. And so needing to overcome procrastination, like putting studying off, because this could be study that is delayed, right? So it could be the idea somebody may need to work through the idea of like putting their studies off because of making changes in the home or improving the home, which means like doing stuff around the house, right? And needing to overcome that. So the only other thing I will say, that was the literal education sense. If we pair or mirror the outer cards, book and mountain, this could be a week where we become knowledgeable of what our particular blocks are, right? And why would that be? So we can choose, if we want to, choose to overcome them, right? And that would have a change on our personal lives, our domestic lives, our home lives, right? Personal change or some kind of personal improvement. So that is how I would look at this week's pyramid spread. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end the Oracle Outlook here. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading. And I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. One that is filled with opportunities and good luck. Take care.